This is the OTB Television Network, a service of Capital District Off-Track Betting.
They come to the 8 ball, and California Chrome is absolutely sensational. California Chrome shines bright in the Kentucky Derby.
Will take charges surging, and it's a photo finish. It's too close to call.
African Story wins the Dubai World Cup.
Macho Man!
Broadcasting live from the Capital OTB studios, this is Racing Across America with Seth Merrow.
Good morning and welcome to the Wednesday edition of Racing Across America. I'm Seth Merrill. Thanks for joining us. Coming up in a few minutes, Jeremy Plonk, HorsePlayerNow.com, Night School. We'll talk a little bit about the weekend over at Parks with Jeremy, and also talk a little bit about the older division, which over the past couple of months has changed a little bit, and heading into the last couple of months before we get to the Breeders' Cup and things kind of firm up as far as looking at Eclipse Awards and whatnot, get some thoughts there, because certainly there have been some notable retirements and whatnot just over the past few weeks. A little bit later on, Rachel McLaughlin from Indiana Grand Racing. We'll talk a little bit about Indiana Grand and their card this afternoon with Rachel, get a couple ideas out there as well. All of that coming up shortly. In the meantime, some of the news of the past 24, 48 hours. And one of those, not a retirement necessarily, but the Grade 1 Foster winner, the Foster run earlier this year at Churchill Downs, Moonshine Mullen, who I thought was going to be potentially kind of an interesting player in the handicap division. Moonshine Mullins has been sidelined for the rest of the year. 6 years old, had that victory in the Stephen Foster, and that would have guaranteed him entry into the Breeders' Cup Classic, but goes to the sidelines, and I'm just looking, you're looking for a spring return at Oaklawn, so that's the game with Moonshine Mullins. But again, another one of those that earlier this year looked to be maybe an interesting addition to the handicap division, and now Game On Dude retired, and Lee, we're still waiting for that one to come back now, so the handicap division, very interesting and kind of in flux. Suffolk Downs, and we talked a little bit with Lynn Schneerson on Sunday on Loose on the Lead about this, and she mentioned this as a possibility. Subsequently, she has followed up with an article in the Blood Horse that confirms Suffolk Downs has added a race day to their season to kind of give the track a little more of a proper send-off. The last day of racing, I believe, had been scheduled to be a Monday. And I'm just looking, yeah, it's not confirmed, but I'm pretty sure it was a Monday. But the last day now is going to be Saturday, October 4th. Yeah, there it is. It was originally scheduled. The last day was Monday, September 29th. So the added day also gives some employees some extra work and some extra checks and whatnot. So, good for them. And this Saturday is going to give fans of Suffolk Downs and just racing fans in general, as I said, I'm hoping I can make it up for a visit, which would be my first visit to Suffolk Downs and potentially last. But that Saturday is going to give a lot more folks the opportunity to get out there and just in a nostalgic fashion visit Suffolk Downs for potentially the last time. So again, Suffolk Downs now added a day to their schedule. Saturday, October 4th, so potentially, we're all within driving distance. If you're thinking of maybe making a last visit to Suffolk Downs, that will be an opportunity as well. Talked about the older division in Palace Malice, who it had been thought was done, could be back in training next year. Palace Malice, of course, came out of the 6th place finish in the Whitney, and it had a couple of subpar workouts, underwent some physical exams, revealed a bone bruise. The bone bruise was going to require 60 to 90 days, and that pretty much put the kibosh on the 2014 schedule. So Cott Campbell and the folks at Dogwood decided we'll retire the horse, try to team up and see what we can do as far as the stud career and see which farms out there are interested. Well, it turns out Three Chimneys was interested. They acquired an interest in Palace Malice, and subsequently they have said maybe they'll race Palace Malice in 2015. So we'll keep our eyes on that. But to come out and make that announcement is interesting. So Palace Malice could be back next year in 2015 to race for, it looks like a partnership of Dogwood and Three Chimneys. So that's good news for the handicap division next year. As I say, things still a little bit chaotic as far as 2014. Did mention last week, I think it was, I'm not sure, could have been early. No, it was definitely last week. It wasn't earlier this week. But California and Santa Anita in particular looking at potentially instituting some rules regarding whipping. And it was essentially, I think, if I'm not sure, the new rule, it doesn't, oh, here it is. It would limit a jockey to hitting a horse 3 times in succession. And then they would have to wait for a response, see if there is a response. And it was going to be a house rule at Santa Anita. Santa Anita subsequently, though, has announced they will wait for the CHRB, the horse racing board out in California, to make a ruling that would govern the statewide rules. And then Santa Anita will act on that, which probably a good, these whipping rules, you understand them, and it's for the benefit of the horse. And racing where it is now in the cultural landscape, there's a lot of concern, as there should be, for horse welfare and whatnot. And so, the intention of these rules, no argument there. But they have some whipping rules over in the UK, Great Britain, that have been instituted, and there's a count you can have, and you go over that count, jockeys can be fined. And we've seen, if you watch international racing, seen jockeys get fined and suspended and whatnot for missing that count. And I just find it hard to believe, in the heat of the battle, these guys are 1, 2, 3, you're keeping track in your head. I think you're just trying to get your horse to give the best effort. And so these whip rules where there is a count involved, like I say, in the heat of the battle, I think it becomes very tough to 1, 2, 3, okay, let me wait. And then also, when the rule came out and the discussion of the rule came out last week, it didn't seem to me it was clear the time frame. It said you could whip your horse 3 times and then you had to wait for a response. Well, how long is the time frame that you wait for a response and you can go back to the whip? It was just seemed a little iffy. But we'll see what the California Horse Racing Board does now and how they maybe refine the rule or what goes on there. But subsequently, I mean, the upshot of this is Santa Anita at their I think it was going to start at their next meet. They will not institute the whip rules. They're going to wait for the CHRB and see what they have to say and what they have to do about that. Fast Anna, we talked about Fast Anna a couple of times earlier this week in regard to the Gallant Bob on the undercard of the Pennsylvania Derby Saturday down at Parks. Fast Anna running second in that race behind Favorite Tale. And that was only the 4th career start for Fast Anna. And I said, 3rd career start, runs a very good second behind the Big Beast in the King's Bishop up at Saratoga. 4th career start, runs second to Favorite Tale down at Parks. So this is a talented, lightly raced horse for Kathy Ritvo. Subsequently, after finishing second this past weekend, has returned down to Kathy Ritvo's base down in Florida. Ritvo says, happy with the performance. Fast Anna comes out of that Gallant Bob with a 97 buyer figure. That was a career best. And they're now looking where to go with Fast Anna. And I just found this follow-up article in the Racing Forum interesting because Ritvo said she would discuss the options with owner and breeder Frank Calabrese. And their choices, according to this article, include a possible start in the Breeders' Cup Sprint or switching Fast Anna over to the turf. And that would be kind of an interesting scenario there. So we'll see how that plays out. Again, Fast Anna, lightly raced, very talented. Absolutely keep our eyes on that one and see where they might go moving forward. Wildcat Red, probable starter for the Oklahoma Derby. Oklahoma Derby will be run on Sunday. I believe the entries will be drawn on Thursday. Friday we'll probably have somebody on board to maybe preview and talk a little bit about the Oklahoma Derby. But Wildcat Red, one of 13 possibles for Sunday's Oklahoma Derby at Remington Park. And it's interesting. Wildcat Red being in the field is interesting because that is certainly a 3-year-old who has played at the highest level among the 3-year-olds through the first part of the year. But also Charge Now is going to be in the mix. And Charge Now is interesting because Charge Now ran second by a head behind VE Day in the Curlin up at Saratoga. Subsequently, like VE Day, went over to the Travers. VE Day wins the Travers. Charge Now didn't run so well. 5th, 6th, 7th in there. But I think Charge Now will be an interesting addition to this Oklahoma Derby because also remember, finishing 3rd in that Curlin, it was VE Day, Charge Now, and Protonico finished 3rd in the Curlin. Subsequently went down to Parks and won the Smarty Jones. I thought Protonico was interesting on Saturday in the Pennsylvania Derby. Didn't offer too much to be enthusiastic about there. But again, I think Charge Now, a little bit interesting as well. And we'll have, again, I think they're drawn on Thursday, so we probably won't know by the time we're on the air on Thursday, but by Friday, we should have the field for the Oklahoma Derby, Sunday's Oklahoma Derby. And as I say, try to get somebody on the show to talk a little bit about that race, and we'll see how the field shapes up at that time. Do want to remind you before we go to the break, talk a little bit about, we talked earlier this week with Gary West about Kentucky Downs. Today is their closing day. There's 3 stakes races on the card. There's actually 2 stakes races, but one of them is split, the Kentucky Ladies Marathon, two really full fields. And as I say, we talked with Gary West about Kentucky Downs, the value you can find down there. It's turf racing with nice full fields, horses coming in from a bunch of different venues, so there's just a lot of value to be had there. This is your last chance, as is the last day of the season, but there are 3 nice stakes races. Just going to quickly talk a little bit about those stakes. Again, we talked with Gary about on Monday about these, but I did want to one more time take a look, and we looked at this race on Monday with Gary, but I want to take a look again at the August 3rd weigh-up from Saratoga. Number 13, Cat's Claw, will be the winner for Jonathan Shepard, making a nice late run. But keep your eyes on the number 3. Watch the 2 chicklets. 13 and 3, as they come to the stretch, are going to be pretty close together. And number 13, as I say, Cat's Claw, will wind up to be the winner. And you can see right there with the chicklets, they're pretty close together. 3 is Angel Terrace, the other Shepherd. And you can see that one on the outside in the Augustin colors, and just flattens out maybe a little bit as compared to the eventual winner. But both of these are in today, and they're in the various divisions. Cat's Claw is in the 1st division of the Ladies Marathon. Angel Terrace is in the 2nd division. Cat's Claw came back after that way of victory and subsequently was inexplicably 6th. I mean, just didn't offer much in the Glens Falls up at Saratoga. Angel Terrace has been off since the weigh, not showing any workouts. You would have to think this one had been down at Shepherd's Ashwell Farm down in Pennsylvania and has been working down there. I'm expecting a better effort from Angel Terrace. I don't know if we'll get the price we want because it is Shepherd, and just looking at the rest of the field in that 2nd division of the Kentucky Downs Ladies Marathon today, I think Angel Terrace is going to take some action, but I find both of the Shepherd, beyond the fact that I'm a Shepherd fan, I do find both of the Shepherd horses interesting today in the 2 separate divisions of the Kentucky Ladies Marathon. And then again, there is one more stakes race on their card, the Kentucky Turf Dash, 6.5 furlongs on that turf course down at Kentucky Downs. And I do want to remind you that in there, the horse that's going to be fun to watch is Undrafted. Wesley Ward, turf sprinter, automatically you have to pay attention. This is a horse that 2 starts back won the Jaipur at Belmont, and subsequently they went over to Royal Ascot and ran an okay 4th in a Group 1 over there, 4th in a field of 13, beaten less than 2 lengths. So that was a pretty good effort. Has been off since that trip over to Royal Ascot, but maybe that's a good thing, the trip overseas and whatnot, a little recovery time. Undrafted in the Turf Dash is going to be interesting. Not only Wesley Ward, but owned by NFLer Wes Welker as well. So 3 really kind of fun stakes on the card today. The final card of the season at Kentucky Downs. Pay attention to that because, again, the races are a lot of fun and offer some real value. All right, we'll head to our first break. When we come back, Jeremy Plonk, HorsePlayerNow.com, Night School, right after this. Stay tuned.
Face it. Most horse racing websites are just too much clutter, too much to navigate through. Next time, log on to CapitalOTB.com. Our newly designed website is easier than ever to use, with all the information the professional horse player needs. CapitalOTB.com.
I got it. Watch me. I got it. Hey! I got something that makes me want to shout. I got something that tells me what it's all about. I got a move that tells me what to do. If you don't, brothers and sisters, then you won't know what it's all about.
I'm Steve Beck.
And I'm Seth Merrill.
Together, we're Loose on the Lead on Capital OTB, Sundays at 10 a.m. Why should they watch, Seth?
Sit down on Sunday, have a bagel, get some great racing conversation.
Cream cheese only, no jelly. Sundays, 10 a.m., Loose on the Lead, Capital OTB.
Missed one of our TV shows? No worries. Now you can catch all your favorite programs online. Simply log on to CapitalOTB.com and click on the YouTube link at the bottom of the homepage. And look for our new podcast coming soon. CapitalOTB.com. Log on today.
Using CapitalOTBBet.com is as easy as 1, 2, 3. 1. Simply log on with your username and password from the homepage. 2. Fund your Capital OTB account through our Easy Money, Green Dot, or Visa MasterCard options. And 3. Place your bet on one of our 3 easy-to-navigate wagering platforms, Capital Bet TV, Capital Bet Express, or Capital Bet Pro. CapitalOTBBet.com. Log on today.
I'm Anthony Moreno. Join me weekdays at 9 for the Handicappers Report. We'll handicap the top tracks across the country and help you prepare for the day in racing. That's the Handicappers Report, weekdays at 9, only on the OTB TV network.
This is Racing Across America with Seth Merrill.
Welcome back to Racing Across America. Seth Merrill in here on this Wednesday morning, and we're making contact with Jeremy Plonk, HorsePlayerNow.com and Night School. I'm going to check and see if we have Jeremy on board right now. Jeremy, good morning. All right, I will proceed until I hear Jeremy in my ear with a little news of the day. We'll continue with a treatise. Talk a little bit about Wildcat Red in the Oklahoma Derby. A treatise aiming for the Indiana Derby a week from this weekend, and that should be really, really interesting. This is the very, very talented 3-year-old that's been racing down in Florida, and that one aiming again a week from this coming Saturday. The Grade 2 Indiana Derby had a workout down at Gulfstream, 48.84 around the dogs on the sloppy track down there. Now, obviously, next week we'll talk a little bit more about that. I am told now we are joined by Jeremy Plonk, HorsePlayerNow.com and Night School. Good morning, Jeremy.
I'm being mysterious, Seth. I'm hanging out in the bushes.
All right, I hear Jeremy, but through the wall in the other room. I don't yet hear him in my ear. So if we can maybe jiggle around a little bit and get him in my ear, we'll be doing a little bit better, because it's not going to work through the wall. Jeremy, give it a shot again. Let's see if I got you.
Let's see if we can hear each other now.
Okay, I still don't have Jeremy in my ear, and I will continue with a little bit of news until I hear the. All right, I'll just continue a little talk. Dick Girardi had a good column in the Racing Forum about the Pennsylvania Derby with some stats I thought I would toss out there. Total handle on Saturday down at Parks, over $10 million. It's interesting because as compared to the same card in 2013, it's an 88% increase, 88%. So nice numbers down there on Saturday. When you get the Kentucky Derby winner to show up, things certainly are very, very appealing. Pennsylvania Derby got more than $3 million in bets. That's nearly 3 times what they have in 2013. $1 million was bet at the track on the 13 races at Parks. So those numbers just nuts. And as I say, $10 million, 88% increase over 2013. It's just, and it was a good day. And the Girardi column was kind of interesting also. He said, Doesn't know what the attendance was, but it kind of confirmed. I had my partner Steve Bick was in here on Loose on the Lead on Sunday, and he had been there on Saturday and said, really nice crowd. Crowded, but it was not too crowded. There were not complaints about lines or anything. And Girardi confirms that. He said the place, there was a big crowd, a nice crowd, but there weren't waits at concessions or lines for betting or anything, and that's good news. But Girardi said, and I've heard estimates of 16,000 down there. Girardi said, anybody who's tossing out a number, you can't really depend on it because they didn't, with the casino there now, they don't track attendance. But I still think there are all kinds of metrics racetracks use to track attendance, how many programs get sold, and the per capita betting and whatnot. So I think, the 16,000 has been bandied about. I'm guessing is probably, it's not dead on accurate, but I got to guess it's probably somewhere in the ballpark anyway. As I say, I think they probably do have some formulas they can go with and make an educated guess. So Girardi said, don't trust any attendance figures, but I would say probably the number they've tossed out there. He did note that they typically the 5th floor is closed, that was open. Part of the 1st floor is closed, that was open, and the folks at Parks were very accommodating to all the people who showed up to enjoy the race day. So it sounds like good crowd, and a crowd that was manageable as well, and a crowd that liked to bet, not only on track but off track as well. As I say, the numbers fire on Saturday down at Parks, just phenomenal. So again, you have the Kentucky Derby winner show up, plus you toss in Bayern as well. Turns out to be a very, very lucrative day for Parks. Horsemen also urge a fight against the repeal of the casino law out in Massachusetts, and that's another article by Lynn Schneerson, this one going from the Daily Racing Form, and I'm being told that we can give Jeremy another try. We will do that. Jeremy Plonk, are you here, and can we hear you in my ear?
I hope so. I'm here.
He's there, but I can't hear him in my ear, so... like I say, I hear him talking through the wall, and that's not going to work exactly because I can't really make out what is being said, but I recognize the voice. I will continue, however. If you guys want to go to a commercial, and if that would be easier to test drive, that would be the good idea, I think. Why don't we do that? We'll head to a commercial and see if we can get things straightened out with Jeremy. So stay tuned. We'll be back. The adventure continues right after this.
This is Racing Across America with Seth Merrow.
The future of online betting is here, and only at the all-new CapitalOTBBet.com. CapitalOTBBet.com delivers a state-of-the-art wagering experience found nowhere else in horse racing. CapitalOTBBet.com. Log on today.
Each morning on the OTB TV network, you get the very best in horse racing programming. Weekdays begin with the Handicappers Report, where professional handicappers share their selections and analysis of the day's racing. Followed by Racing Across America, a daily conversation with racing personalities from around the country. Saturdays include Down the Stretch, where Mark Casano speaks with the biggest names in racing. And Sunday mornings, it's Loose on the Lead, where Steve Bick and I offer news and a unique lineup of weekly guests. All here on the OTB TV network.
Fascinated by the world of horse racing? Interested in honing your handicapping skills? Class is in session. Night School, Monday nights. Easy to access online. It's free, interactive, and informative for the casual and serious race fan. Horse Player Now Buzz. Live horses to watch emailed to you daily. Our eyes, your prize. Night School in the Buzz. Visit horseplayernow.com for details.
Funding your Capital OTB bet account is as easy as 1, 2, 3. 1. Easy Money. Clearly the fastest and easiest method of depositing funds into your account. Make deposits or withdrawals in just minutes. 2. Green Dot Money Pack. Gives you instant access to your funds. Green Dot Money Packs are available at thousands of retailers nationwide. And 3. MasterCard Visa. Simply click on the link from the funding page, enter your account information, and fund your account. CapitalOTBBet.com. Log on today.
Hey race fans, head down to the all-new Clubhouse Racebook, With live horse racing on more than 250 flat screen TVs, state-of-the-art wagering terminals, and amazing Vegas-style atmosphere. The Clubhouse Racebook, 711 Central Avenue, Albany.
Welcome back to Racing Across America, and I believe we have the phone issues solved, and Jeremy Plonk from Night School and HorsePlayerNow.com is on the line. Good morning, Jeremy.
Good morning, Seth. Good to be with you, bud.
Happy to have you on. And if folks got out in the viewing audience could hear you before, I just wanted to know I couldn't, so that was the problem, but we've got it all straightened away now. Happy to have you on board, Jeremy, and one of the reasons I'm happy to have you on board is so we can talk a little bit about Saturday at Parx. I want to get your thoughts, obviously all year long, early in the year, the Road to the Crown packages you were putting together at the end of every week, looking at the 3-year-olds on the Triple Crown Trail. We've talked plenty about the 3-year-olds since moving into the summer and beyond, and it was a really, really nice 3-year-old event down at Parx on Saturday. Pennsylvania Derby, $1 million, Grade 2 event. We're going to watch the stretch run once again. It will be number 4 Bayern over number 7 Tapiture. Candy Boy runs 3rd. California Chrome, a disappointing 6th. And as I say, I'm excited to have you on because I want your take. Bayern in the performance. I think we all thought when you saw that 24 up there, it was a done deal. And subsequently, Mike Watchmaker had a good column in the Racing Forum. He said, what do you make of Bayern? Is he that talented, or is he a horse that just, when it falls his way, he looks really talented? And certainly in the Haskell and the Pennsylvania Derby this past Saturday, things did fall his own way, but you can't deny he is very, very talented. Certainly the slow fractions and the track record coming under the wire say as much. But then I also want your take on California Chrome and his kind of flop on Saturday. So what were your thoughts on the Pennsylvania Derby?
Well, things have kind of circled around a little bit. I mean, Bayern was kind of like the hot horse towards the beginning of the year at Santa Anita. We forget he was scratched as the morning line favorite over California Chrome in the San Felipe before California Chrome's real big breakout race in the San Felipe where everybody said, wow, this horse is something special. It was Bayern who was the morning line favorite that day, and Gary Stevens was to ride, and they were trying to juggle horses between Oak Lawn and Santa Anita on which one Stevens could ride and keep their options open. And so this was a horse who's always been well-intended. He kind of reminds you a lot of Game On Dude, and it's kind of funny how the baton has passed as Game On Dude retires just a few days before Bayern goes in the Pennsylvania Derby. I misread the race a little bit in that I thought Bayern was going to the Pennsylvania Derby strictly to get away from Game On Dude because they had the same running style and figured Game On Dude is earmarked for the Awesome McGinn Stakes and on to the Breeders' Cup Classic, and this is a way for Baffert to divide his charges. It's probably not the best race. Bayern's really probably not a 1.125 horse, but it will work, and it'll give him a chance to divide up from Game On Dude. But then Game On Dude obviously had some problems. He didn't retire the minute they found the problem with him, so he probably wasn't really aiming to the Awesome again anyway before the retirement was announced. And so Bayern being shipped to Pennsylvania Derby was because Baffert meant business, apparently. And so that trainer intent was difficult to read going into it. But when the pace shaped up as it did, like you said, 24, then they went 47 and 4, that it was going to be very difficult to beat Bayern on that kind of scenario. Still, you expect California Chrome to be sitting an easy second at that point and ready to compound. The horse is coming off a 3-month layoff, so the slow pace should help him too. That he really only had to turn it on and accelerate for 3 furlongs to try to go after Bayern. The fact is, he retreated. 5 horses beat him to the wire. He didn't get beat all that far from the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th place finishers, but still, that was just a terribly disappointing effort from California Chrome, and it leaves you wondering, what next?
Yeah, and give me your thoughts now on the 3-year-old scene, because the NTRA poll came out. Shared Belief was sitting at number 2 behind Wise Dan, so he's the top-rated 3-year-old. Then you went down the list. California Chrome was 1 ahead of Bayern. What are your thoughts right now on the 3-year-old picture?
Polls are one thing. Polls are supposed to tell you who's best now, that kind of deal, like who's the top-rated now. In college football, if you win a big game, you move up the poll, same kind of concept. But championship awards are based on accomplishment, and not who's good at a particular time of the year. Who was the best for the year? It's still about winning the Kentucky Derby. It's still about winning the Preakness. It's still about winning the Belmont. And nobody came close to the accomplishment of California Chrome in that regard. It would be, to me, an absolute positive travesty, even if he wins the Awesome again and the Breeders' Cup Classic, for Shared Belief to supplant California Chrome for champion 3-year-old honors. I just don't see any way. This sport is made for horses to run in the Triple Crown at age 3. He won the San Felipe, he won the Santa Anita Derby, he won the Kentucky Derby, and he won the Preakness. Only Affirmed and Sunday Silence in the history of racing have strung those 4 races together. What more do you want out of the horse? You know, these 3-year-olds aren't supposed to be peaking at the end of the year. They're supposed to be peaking in May and June, and he did. So, to me, California Chrome should absolutely positively have the 3-year-old championship locked up. For me, it's about accomplishment. If you want to talk about who's the best horse in a match race in November, after one horse has already peaked and was trained to peak in May, and another horse was brought along slowly because of a foot problem and is now peaking later in the year, to me that's a completely different argument. That's what the tote board is for. Make your wagers and tell us who the best horse is based on the tote board and who's got the most money on them, and let them race on the track. But that, to me, doesn't determine who wins a championship.
That's interesting, an interesting take, and it's going to be interesting to see. I've said it already, the older division and 3-year-olds, how this next couple of months plays out, and see where the voters do go. And this weekend is obviously going to add to that with Shared Belief, as you say, in the Awesome again. Interesting, your take on that, and I will be interested to see, as I said.
Shared Belief is going to be 1-5 in that Awesome again. There's nobody left. So if he beats that field, what's the big deal, honestly? And so, you know, he won the Los Alamitos Derby, a nice race, but, you know, Candy Boy, horses like that have proven they're not the absolute horses who are going to be in the top 3 on the ballot. You know, they're top 10, top 15 type 3-year-olds, but not on the ballot for champion. So, and what's he going to beat in the Awesome again? He's going to beat some older horses from California, a stock that's completely depleted. You're talking about horses like Imperative out there who are going to be among the favorites. And so I don't see it. And this Classic is shaping up to be one of the absolute worst we've seen in the history of the Breeders' Cup Classic. And in 31 years, this will be as weak of a field as we've seen in the Classic. I mean, the handicap division, you could make a 10-horse race with who has dropped out in the last 3 months and make one of the better Breeders' Cup Classics we've seen in a while, but there's just nothing left. I mean, it's just going to be a battle of attrition. And if Shared Belief wins these next 2 races, I don't think it adds up to what we've seen from California Chrome.
Yeah, and let's talk about that handicap division in a second. Before we do that, also just want to go back and talk about one division I think definitely is in the books right now, and you can put a punctuation on the end of that sentence. That's Untappable and the Cotillion, and I want some of your thoughts there as we watch the stretch run. Number 8, Untappable, will win. Number 2, Sweet Reason, I thought acquitted herself very well, trying 2 turns again, and coming off of the win in the Acorn and the Test. So I thought the top 2 in the betting ran well, going 1-2 under the wire also. Now, some of the discussion after the race was Untappable steps back in against Fillies, but didn't win as convincingly as she did against Fillies earlier this year. But I'll get your take, Jeremy. We've talked about it with a couple of other guests over the past couple of days. Seemed like the track was favoring speed. So for her to come and make up ground in the stretch was kind of tough, and that may be the explanation why she didn't run away and hide from this bunch the way she has some of the other fillies earlier this year. Not to mention the horse that ran second, Sweet Reason, pretty good filly in her own right.
Oh, she's very good. And, you know, the question was, would she like the 2 turns? And Sweet Reason ran well. JoJo Warrior, you know, had a little bit of hype from the West Coast coming in. Cassat was a horse a lot of people thought was a rising player for Larry Jones. So, you know, it was a decent renewal of the Cotillion. Obviously, it was top-heavy with a 1-2 favorite, and Untappable deservedly so. She is the best 3-year-old filly. Stop Shopping Maria is better than I thought she was. But to me, she's a clearly second-best 3-year-old filly in America. And it's those 2. Whoever else you want to put on a Clips ballot later in the year, you know, is kind of almost just an optional play. It comes down to those 2, and Untappable to me is probably already done more than enough to clinch. I mean, the Kentucky Oaks, and then to still be firing in a Grade 1 here in September. She's been managed pretty well. Any other feather in her cap in terms of balloting is she's won in New York. And say what you want. I know you're based in New York, and this is no means a slam on the turf riders and the voters in New York and the fans of New York, but there are many who feel that racing revolves around New York, and if you don't prove it on the stage in New York, you haven't proven anything. That's part of the reason why I think California Chrome is a little disrespected in that, yes, he won in Kentucky and Maryland, but he failed in New York, and back east again here, and Philly didn't fire. So he hasn't won over the New Yorkers yet, I don't think. And so maybe that leaves it open to the celebrity brouhaha that Jim Rome brings with Shared Belief and the undefeated record. We love undefeated records, don't forget that. But when it comes to Untappable, she's already won in New York, and so she's checked all the boxes. There's just no way she would not be voted champion 3-year-old filly. And when you get out there, if she heads out to the Breeders' Cup Distaff as expected, she gets, the ultimate showdown with Beholder, the younger and the older, and what else is out there in the, the older mare division. Should make for a very good race on the Breeders' Cup Friday for sure.
And let me ask you this before we move on to that older division. You mentioned the Grade 1 Cotillions. Untappable adds another Grade 1. How about, do you think next year on this same day they'll be running 2 Grade 1s? Do you think the Pennsylvania Derby is going to get kicked up?
They're a little stingy on moving the grades with the 3-year-old races, especially earlier in the year, because there are a top-heavy number of Grade 1s. You go back to the Florida Derby, the Wood, and all those races, the Bluegrass. So they're a little stingy, in my experience, in upgrading 3-year-old races to the higher levels because they are restricted, and so I don't know if the Pennsylvania Derby's done enough in the last 2 or 3 years to go all the way to the Grade 1 level, but it's awfully close. And what horses do coming out of these races matter because there's a point system that the North American graded system uses. So if Byron were to go on and win the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile or the Classic or something like that, or California Chrome adds another Grade 1 coming up and wins the Classic, then you have an even stronger case for it. And that really helps those races, what the horses do in the next 6 months or so after they've run in one of these big races. So that story can still be written. As of right now, I think it probably holds as a Grade 2. But if somebody goes on and does something big at the Breeders' Cup, it could. I mean, after Will Take Charge last year, and that kind of ilk of horses we're talking about is at the very highest level of what they had the past 2 years.
Yeah, either way, hats off to Parks for putting on a great day of racing on Saturday. All right, let's shift our attention now. And when I got in touch with you yesterday, I said we wanted to touch on the older division, given some of the news over the past couple of weeks. And I've talked about it already 3 or 4 times over the past few days about how this handicap division that 3 or 4 months ago we thought was so strong and so intriguing over the summer has just kind of fallen apart. And I think the culmination of our optimism, and we're going to pull up the Metropolitan Mile back on June 7th. We're going to watch Palace Malice get it done as the 6-5 favorite. And maybe more interesting, finishing last in the field of 12 that day was Marino, who is now kind of floated to the top of the what's left of the handicap division, along with It's My Lucky Day. I talked about that NTRA poll earlier, which came out on Monday. It's interesting. Wise Dan is on top, and yeah, okay, he's an older horse, but I think he's on top, obviously, on turf performances. So really, you don't get an older division horse, you don't get a handicap division horse till you get down to number 6, It's My Lucky Day, on this week's NTRA poll. And I pulled up the results earlier this year of graded stakes and just kind of looked. And again, early this year, back on January 18th, the Sunshine Millions Classic, Mucho Macho Man wins. He's gone now. The Don Handicap winner, Lee, has yet to come back to the races after being sidelined. Palace Malice wins the New Orleans Handicap. We have horses like Will Take Charge winning the Oaklawn Handicap. Moonshine Mullen, who I mentioned earlier on the show, is now on the sidelines, won the Ali Sheba and subsequently the Foster as well. But again, we're watching this nice performance by the Met Mile, which might have been the high watermark for that handicap division this year. What are your thoughts as we now head into kind of the last couple of months before the Breeders' Cup Classic, which you've already said you thought is going to wind up to be kind of shallow this year?
It will. And we talked just a moment ago about how California Chrome was trained to peak in May and June. That's when the 3-year-olds are supposed to peak. This talk by a lot of folks in the TV networks are trying to put together a series of the best handicap races all around the country year-round to make the sport viable year-round. There's some attrition that goes on with that you're simply not going to see the horses around in November come Breeders' Cup. If Mucho Macho Man is running because it's a big check in January for the Sunshine Millions, it's not a complete surprise that the horse still isn't around come January after some of the tread comes off the tires on all of these horses. That race, Belmont wants to have its own Breeders' Cup day in June. It was a fabulous day of racing, but there's going to be some impact because of that. Steve Asmussen had a great quote a couple years ago, and I know he's not the first trainer to say it, but he mentioned it most recently with a big profile horse is, you get paid for what you do in horse racing, but you also pay for what you do in horse racing. And so, think about Palace Malice, Princess of Silmar, these throwdown races we saw on Belmont Stakes Day in June on the undercard. And for what? To be a great undercard to the Belmont Stakes. Now we get to November, and these horses aren't around. Now, it's not Belmont's job to set up the Breeders' Cup. In fact, they've been very adversarial, NYRA, in the Breeders' Cup for many different reasons over the past 5-6 years. So, it's not Belmont's job to keep horses preserved. Their job is to put on a great racing show. But in this era that we are in, this culture we are in horses not staying sound, whether it's poor training, over-medication, bad breeding, whatever it is. I'm no scientist, and I can't tell you the exact reason for it. But I know this: horses running strong in January aren't running strong in November, and horses who are set to peak in May don't peak in November. I mean, the Kentucky Derby winner in the Breeders' Cup Classic does nothing. The last 5 or 6 that have made it to the Classic all finished off the board. California Chrome, for him to still be at an elite level in November after being trained to peak in May is almost impossible in today's culture, and statistically it shows that way as well with the horses who have tried it. Most of them don't get that far to the Classic, and the ones who do get drubbed. I mean, you've got to go back to horses like Unbridled in 1990 who were good in the Classic after running in the Kentucky Derby. Street Sense, we forget, in 2007 couldn't even hit the board in a short 7-horse field in the Breeders' Cup Classic. He wound up 4th at Monmouth Park, and he was as good a Kentucky Derby winner as we've seen in the last several years. But they just can't keep on a high level forever.
Yeah, it has turned out to, as I say, be a little bit of a disappointment with that handicap division we were so high on earlier this year. But as you say, maybe that's a function of being so high on them earlier in the year. They're not around at the end of the year. All right, Jeremy, as always, we appreciate the visit. We tell people to pop on over to horseplayernow.com. The night school sessions every Tuesday night at 8:30. You can go back and check the archives there as well. Jeremy, thanks for the visit. We'll talk to you next week.
A pleasure. Take care, everyone.
Thanks a lot. We'll head to our break now. When we come back, Rachel McLaughlin. She'll talk a little Indiana Grand Racing right after this. Stay tuned.
Missed one of our TV shows? No worries. Now you can catch all your favorite programs online. Simply log on to CapitalOTV.com and click on the YouTube link at the bottom of the homepage. And look for our new podcast coming soon. CapitalOTV.com. Log on today.
Hey, race fans, head down to the all-new Clubhouse Racebook and get in the game. With live horse racing on more than 250 flat-screen TVs, state-of-the-art wagering terminals, fantastic food and drinks, an amazing Vegas-style atmosphere with seating for nearly 900 of your closest friends. Conveniently located at 711 Central Avenue, right off Exit 5 of I-90 in Albany, the Clubhouse Racebook is the better choice.
The Capital OTB Handicapping Challenge Series is back. That's right. The 2014 Capital OTB Handicapping Challenge Series is back, and it's your chance to win thousands in cash and prizes, and a seat at the 2015 Handicapping Championship in Las Vegas. This month's contest is the Belmont Bet Fest on October 4th. So sign up today, online at CapitalOTB.com, or stop in at the Clubhouse Racebook.
I don't know. You hang around here. What do you think?
This is Racing Across America with Seth Merrow.
Welcome back to Racing Across America. Happy to be joined now by Rachel McLaughlin from Indiana Grand. Good morning, Rachel.
Good morning, Seth.
Happy to have you on board. For folks who are going to play Indiana Grand this afternoon, what's the weather look like?
It's beautiful here. We've had
Nice.
a really nice couple of days. It was 70 and sunny yesterday, and it looks like it's going to be the same way today.
That's what we like to hear. We're getting the same up in our neck of the woods. A little reprieve. Fall has started, but we're still getting some summertime temperatures. We like to see that around the country as well. Particularly, we're going to take a look at some races today, including some grass racing. We like that. I must mention, as I was looking through the PPs, for Indiana Grand this afternoon. The first race today, part of the entry, Need More Cowbell. I love that name. The the throwback to the Christopher Walken, Will Ferrell piece on Saturday Night Live. Need more cowbell. Lightly raced, but if he gets more cowbell, who knows in the opener today. But we'll look out at race number 6 this afternoon. It's an allowance event for 3-year-olds and up. They're going to go 5 furlongs. What were your thoughts in the 6th?
My thoughts on the 6th were I'm going to try to beat the 8 and the 1, which seem to be the, no-brainers here. A couple of very nice horses coming off of some really nice stakes races, but I'm going to try to beat him and go with Scatterfield, which is, I honestly started handicapping, and then I realized, oh my God, Scatterfield is a 6-year-old gelding and has never raced on turf. So I kind of I picked him. I like this horse. I've always liked this horse. It used to be trained by Bart McBride. Ralph Martinez does a good job with him now. But this one, actually, I'm interested to see what happens today on turf, and I'm interested to find out. I might ask Ralph today why he decided to put him on turf for the first time in so long, ever. And but the other thing is he's just so good in these starters. Ralph waits for the nice starter allowances that this horse fits in, or the lower allowance ranks, which he just dominates in. He's an accomplished horse, and he's coming off that 4.5 length in a conditioned starter. So I'm just going to have to go with that. He won off that second place finish last time out and still won start. So I really like to see that when these older horses are still trying or come up with some traffic trouble and they overcome it, they end up still doing well. It just shows that he's got a lot in him. And even a bullet work, August 29th, I know he's raced since then, but still putting up bullet work. Scatterfield still got it, and I'm kind of playing him because I've known the horse for a while, and I think he's got a good shot in this race. Yeah, almost
$250,000 in the bank, and it is an interesting move. But as I'm looking at the conditions and whatnot, part of the conditions of not wanting a race on the turf, I'm just wondering if he won so well at this starter allowance level last time on the dirt, if the trainer isn't kind of looking for a spot where class-wise he fits very well in this starter condition. So maybe it's worth taking a little bit of an experiment.
Right, exactly. And he runs on a fast track, he runs well on a muddy track, he runs well on a sloppy track. He just always runs a good race, so I'm expecting him. I'm just kind of going with this one because I feel like there are 2 really obvious favorites in this race. It's going to be a toss-up between those 2, so why not try to beat them,
I like it. All right, race number 7 this afternoon. I like these kind of races. The 2-year-olds, 2-year-old maiden specials, these are Indiana breds. They're going to go a mile, and it looks like a field of 8, and I think it's a nice fun field in here. What did you think in the 7th?
It is. This 7th race for 2-year-old fillies is, I honestly took the most time on this, and usually I don't with maidens. I usually see what I like, and I'm like, okay, I'm sticking with it. But this one, there are just so many. This is going to be a really hard one in pick 3s and pick 6s, I think. But I'm going to go with the 4, 65 North. This is a Paul Holtis trainee, and he's batting at 20% win percentage. He knows where to put his horses. He's got a winning barn, and then he also has 53% of the money. He's doing really well. And Malcolm Franklin aboard, he's in the top 3 of our jockey standing, was the leading jockey last year, just does a great job. He's a great jockey. And this one actually, not moving up per se, it's just stretching out a tiny bit from 7.5 to 1 mile, but I always take that into consideration. And then it's trying dirt, that first lifetime start on the turf. I'm not sure if turf really, it was the breeding for this one. So I liked that this one is actually going to try dirt, and then adds blinkers today, and that usually works out for Paul when he figures out, which one they like. No blinkers, yes blinkers. This one adds. I think this one's going to like it. So, and has had to work since that last start. Nothing too impressive, but obviously that's a key when you're looking at maidens. So a lot of decent work this one. So I don't know what's going to happen in this race. There's a lot of factors and a lot of good horses, but I really like the 4 in this one.
Yeah, it's funny. Before you mentioned the 4, I was looking over the field myself, and I kind of keyed on that one also, being by midship, and I thought the breeding was maybe a little bit interesting. And if you look at the first race, was up there in the hunt before fading. It was 7.5 on the turf, so that tough distance to make the career debut at, but did show a little punch early. That's the kind that I think they can get some education from and move forward. So as I say, before you mentioned the number 4, that was kind of the direction I was looking as well. So in the 7th, the number 4, 65 North, a little bit interesting. 8th race today, an allowance event, non-winners of 3 lifetime. The condition, again, these are Indiana breds. They're fillies and mares, 3-year-olds and up. They will go 3/4 of a mile. What were your thoughts in the 8th?
I really like the 1. I really like the rail. The rail is a tough spot sometimes, but it's almost, I think, 19% win clip. It's not doing too bad, and this one I think just dominates in allowance races. Just going over since the maiden breaking win, this one obviously can go from on the pace, off the pace. It doesn't really matter. Broke at the maiden on dirt. Is going to be on dirt today, and ended up breaking its maiden by 10 1/4 lengths. And then the first time with the winners was in with a really tough stake, so I always, you always got to give them a break there, you know what I mean, when you put maidens in with especially stake horses. And then it came back in allowance ranks and won, so I think that's where this one fits in. And that was on the turf, did an even fourth on the dirt. I just think this is a very versatile 3-year-old filly, can do a little bit of everything, and has showed me all that in just 4 starts. That's what, really impressed me about this one, and I think is going to be tough to take on the dirt here, going back to where it broke its maiden and just romped in that race. I remember that race. That was very impressive race.
Yeah, it looks like one of those horses where it took a little while for the light bulb to turn on, but since then you have to think, boy, they appreciated that too, because they got ambitious. The subsequent 3 starts, 2 stakes, bookending an allowance event, and the allowance event again was a win, but that was on the turf. So that's 7-2. I'll be interested, given the finishing positions, the betting public may let this one float a little bit under, but I agree. I think this horse now back in a non-winners of 3 is probably back in the comfort zone and should be absolutely competitive in here, and that 7-2 looks very attractive.
Yeah, I think you're right. I don't know how close we're going to get that 7-2, but I think you're right. This is one of those horses that just took till she was 3 years old, kind of a bless her heart moment. It took her a while to figure it out. She's like, okay, I can pass the horse. I don't have to get second every time.
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes it just takes them a while to figure it out, but then when they do, bingo, bango, bongo, they've got it figured out.
That's right.
Rachel, we absolutely appreciate the visit as always. Next week, maybe we can talk a little bit about, you'll be a few days away from the Indiana Derby. And again, I had a little news on Atreides getting a workout, planning for that. He is going to absolutely be fun to watch heading to Indiana for the Derby. And as I say, that'll be coming up a week from this weekend. So maybe we can have a little discussion on that. But we appreciate the thoughts for this afternoon, and good luck.
Thank you very much, Seth. You too.
Thanks. Rachel McLaughlin from Indiana Grand, which brings us pretty close to the end of the program. Do have some thoughts on some weekend stakes races coming up this weekend. Most of the tracks have not pulled. Probably most of them will pull today for a weekend, so you'll be able to bring up some past performances. But Churchill Downs did have their PPs up for Saturday already, and I pulled up a couple of fun little stakes races on the Churchill Downs card on Saturday. The Homecoming Classic, $125,000, 3-year-olds and up, going 9 furlongs. It's a short field of 6, but it's a fun field on Saturday. You have Carve in here, and Carve last time out was a pretty good second in the Ack behind Bradester. And Bradester, I said at the time before the Ack, Bradester is a horse that I've found interesting throughout his career and just kind of never lived up to what my expectations were. But at this point in the career, might be getting to that, might be eventually having turned the corner and running well. So Carve running second to Bradester last time out with a triple-digit buyer figure is interesting to me. And also a horse that we talked about plenty on the show early in his career, Departing, the nice horse who had been in the Al Stall barn early in the career. It's still in the Al Stall barn. But had been racing down at Fairgrounds early in the career for Al Stall and doing very well as a 3-year-old. Finished 3rd in the Louisiana Derby last year after running off a nice string of wins, including a little stake down at Fairgrounds leading up to that Louisiana Derby. And then subsequently, here and there was picking some nice spots, won the Super Derby, won the West Virginia Derby. Now as a 4-year-old, has had only 3 starts this year. Most recently was well beaten in the Whitney behind Marino and It's My Lucky Day. But again, I think Departing could be interesting on Saturday night as well down at Churchill Downs. Also on Saturday at Churchill, the Jefferson Cup, a Grade 3 event for $100,000. Horses going a mile on the turf. Battlefront comes in from Europe, but a horse that hasn't run it since October of last year. Ran at Deauville last year. So a little bit of a head scratcher perhaps, because typically you think of these Europeans as having a little bit of an edge on us, but this one hasn't raced for quite a while. First time Lasix on Saturday night, so you have to think that may be the reason this horse is over in our country. Dale Bennett will be running Stormy Pacific off a couple of nice improving efforts up at Arlington Park. Sportscaster for Dale Romans comes in off a third-place finish in an optional claimer up at Saratoga. Heart to Heart, a nice front-end winner up at Saratoga in the Better Talk Now. Almost Famous for Patrick Byrne, who has attracted attention from people over the course of the year. Mark Cassie has Spites Land in here, so it's a field of 8 in the Jefferson Cup. No super standouts, but I think it's a nice competitive field of 8 in there. So a couple nice stakes races coming up on Saturday at Churchill Downs. We'll talk a little bit more about stakes action on the weekend as the next couple of days proceed on Racing Across America. I'm Seth Merrill. This is Racing Across America. We're here every Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. A little bit earlier, Brian Nadeau and Anthony Mormino handled the Handicappers Report. Hopefully, amongst the two shows, we gave you some good information on racing this afternoon, some thoughts that can provide some winners, maybe added into your mix as well. So enjoy the races this afternoon. Let's all cash a few tickets, and we'll see you right back here tomorrow morning.
You're watching OTB TV, a service of Capital Off-Track Betting.